This is unbelievable. The Sixers have done it again. Another improbable fourth quarter come from behind victory last night for Philadelphia against the Washington Wizards, and the Sixers stay undefeated at 4-0. The great news for this team just keeps rolling in. And we're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey, Adem Bona, Joel Embiid, and a whole lot more here on today's show. Plus, we have a new Paul George injury update from NBA insider Jake Fisher over at Bleacher Report. We now have a new timeline for when we can expect to see Paul George back out there on the floor for your Philadelphia 76ers. But before we begin, man, what a start it has been for this 76ers team. I know a lot of us, we're pretty optimistic heading into the year, but I don't know if anybody thought that they would look how they are looking thus far. So if you are having fun watching this 76ers team right now, go ahead, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and with that, let's get into today's show. So the Sixers come back to beat the Washington Wizards on Tuesday night, 139-134 in a crazy overtime game that saw some big-time performances from multiple players. And, of course, we got to start with Tyrese Maxey. But speaking of this comeback, let's set the stage really quick because it was, again, like the Hornets game and like the Celtics game, we saw the comeback kids in Philadelphia overcoming in this one a 19-point deficit, including being down 13 points with 5 minutes to go. And this was the second end of a back-to-back after the Sixers played the Magic on Monday night at home, traveled to Washington to play the Wizards Tuesday night. They looked gassed. They looked like they were on the second end of a back-to-back against Washington early on, but they claw, they scratch, they fight back late. That has been the identity of this team through the first 4 games of this season. So impressive against a Wizards team that, look, Nick Nurse gave them credit in the postgame, and you got to give them credit because they are a young team. They are a fast team in Washington. Even if they don't have the most talent, they were trying to run the Sixers out of the gym, and they did for a while until Philadelphia ended up coming back. And again, as I mentioned, it's kind of been the story of the season so far here for Philadelphia. In the Celtics, Hornets, and Wizards games, the Sixers have come back from some pretty big deficits, as you can see here. At the start of the fourth quarter in each of these games, against Boston, Celtics were up 86-75. The Sixers win the fourth quarter 42-30 to win that game by 1. Then against the Hornets, they were up, Charlotte was 96-85 to start the fourth. Sixers outscore them 39-25 in the fourth quarter, win that game as well. And the Wizards up 110-94 entering the fourth. Sixers outscore Washington 32-16, forced overtime, and then, of course, win that game in the extra period. And we got to start with Tyrese Maxey. When you talk about this team, when you talk about this game, when you talk about this season, it all starts with number 0, with the franchise, in Tyrese Maxey. He's playing like a true MVP candidate this year, and there's really no other way to put it. He has taken that leap from being a really good player, an all-star level player, to an all-NBA, and again, MVP contender. And it's not just me saying it. It's not just Sixers fans saying it. How about Kevin Garnett over on X? Tyrese Maxey wants in on the early MVP talks. Keep going, bro. Look, if he keeps playing like this, where he's leading the NBA in scoring, he has the Sixers out to a 4-0 start. He's one of the best clutch and crunch time performers in the NBA this year. You cannot keep Tyrese Maxey out of the MVP talks. And the numbers, he's got the numbers easily to back all that up. Leading the NBA in scoring, as I mentioned, at over 37 points per game, while also dishing out over 8 dimes and playing efficient basketball, which he didn't really do last year. Dealt with injuries, was a tough year, but this year, 45% from the field and just under 50% from 3. He is launching it from deep, too. A lot of these are difficult, contested, off-the-dribble step-back shots that he is knocking down. It feels like every time we make a video, we're talking about more and more history that Tyrese Maxey is making. We got some more crazy numbers to show you here as well. Tyrese Maxey, the second player in NBA history. I'll read that again. The second player in NBA history to record 150-plus points and 30-plus assists through the first 4 games of the season. The other, Russell Westbrook in 2016-2017. That is good company to be in when you're talking MVP talk. And to add on to this conversation, 4 guards ever have scored 150-plus points in the first 4 games of a season in the history of this league. Michael Jordan, Jerry West, Russell Westbrook, and now Tyrese Maxey this season. Of course, MJ, Jerry West, Hall of Famers. Russell Westbrook will be a Hall of Famer. Tyrese Maxey up there on that list with those players. It's crazy, and I just can't believe we're here at this point. But, I can believe it because of the work Tyrese Maxey puts in to put himself and this team in this position. Now, we talk about MVP. I think he's being a little bit disrespected right now. The MVP odds over at DraftKings, shout out to our sponsor DraftKings, have Maxey with his 6th best odds at MVP right now so far this season. But he's not particularly close. Outside of the top 5, SGA, Wemby, and Jokic are a close top 3. Luka and Giannis at 4 and 5. And then it drops pretty significantly from Giannis at plus 1,000 to Maxey at plus 5,000. I think, Luka's only played 2 games. I think he should be above him. I think maybe Giannis should be a little bit higher. All these guys have had great seasons, so, I'm kind of nitpicking here when it comes to top 6, but he has a legitimate conversation, as legitimate of a conversation as anybody on this list here, to be the MVP so far through 4 games. And some more chat stats here on Tyrese Maxey. He leads the NBA so far this year in fourth quarter points with 53 across 4 games, and plus minus in the fourth quarter, a plus 49 across 4 games in those fourth quarters. So he's getting it done when it matters most, not just stat padding early on in games and blowout victories. He's doing it when his team needs him to get it done. He's been phenomenal. There's really not much more I can say about Tyrese Maxey. He's taken that leap, and it has been tremendous to see. But the player of the game in this one against Washington, yes, it could be Tyrese Maxey, but man, it just might have been Adem Bona. What a night for Adem in the fourth quarter and in overtime, making some tremendous defensive plays. The Sixers don't win this game without the defensive play of Bona, who had been a little bit up and down to start the year. We'd seen a lot of Andre Drummond minutes, but Bona gets the call about midway through the fourth quarter and into overtime. And his rim presence, the rim protection he provides. The offensive game isn't really there. He had obviously a big putback dunk to seal this one at the end, but it was the defensive presence, blocking shots at the rim, that helped Philadelphia end up winning this game. And in the fourth quarter and overtime of this one, Bona was phenomenal. You take a look at the numbers. He played 12 minutes in the fourth quarter and overtime, the full 5 minutes of overtime plus 7 minutes to end the fourth quarter. Only 2 points, but 4 rebounds and 5 blocks in 12 minutes, and was a plus 16 in that time. A big reason why Philadelphia was able to come back and win this game. Look, he didn't really do much to start the game. Joel Embiid was obviously playing, and we'll get to Embiid in a second. He was phenomenal. We saw some Andre Drummond minutes, but Embiid hit his minutes limit midway through the fourth. Nurse went with Bona, and the decision paid off. He has a lot of tools, but throughout his short NBA career thus far, hasn't been able to put it all together. The mental aspect of things, playing smart, being able to defend without fouling, and, not being a negative on the offensive end. But we saw the potential of what Adem Bona can be, playing with fire, playing with his athleticism despite being a little bit undersized at the center spot. Great to see. We'll see if he can earn himself more minutes and earn some more trust from this coaching staff, because he certainly has the tools to be out there and making a big impact for the Sixers team. Another little bit of an unsung hero, I think, for the first few games of the season, and maybe not unsung to Sixers fans, but definitely in the national media. I don't think Quentin Grimes has gotten enough praise from the general NBA world for how good of a year he is having for the Sixers. He has been so big, and again, dealt with the whole contract thing in the offseason, didn't really have time to practice with the team. Saw that a little bit in game 1, where there was clearly some miscommunications with Grimes and his teammates, but through the Hornets game, Magic game, and now this game against Washington. Grimes has been maybe the most clutch player on the Sixers squad, maybe even more so than Tyrese Maxey. Hit the game winner pretty much against the Wizards or against the Hornets back on Saturday, and then last night against Washington. Late in that game, hit a couple massive threes. Nick Nurse drawing up plays for Quentin Grimes, hit the game-tying three at the end of that game coming out of a timeout, but also had a couple huge defensive plays, blocking a shot of a Washington Wizard on that second to last possession to help the Sixers force overtime in that game. Had another steal, I believe, at a point late in that game. It's the two-way ability of Quentin Grimes that is really making an impact for the squad, and they need that because, Maxey, a solid defender, gotten a lot better in that regard. VJ Edgecombe, solid defender, but needs to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and wasn't having a great night last night. Quentin Grimes was the one getting those stops, making those plays, forcing the Wizards into bad decisions, and turning that defense into offense, which, again, this team desperately needed last night. And he is having, again, just a phenomenal, phenomenal season. It's great to see somebody come off of the kind of contract situation he had, but still give 110% effort every night. Nearly 18 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and similar to Maxey, just lighting it up from outside. Nearly 50% from 3 as well for Quentin Grimes. I think he should be in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year early on. A lot of candidates early on in the season, but when you're putting up numbers like that, playing clutch, playing good defense, you got to be in there. Now, currently, according to DraftKings, he is number 10 on the Sixth Man of the Year odds. A lot of names up here that have all had good starts to the season. Josh Hart at number 1, a little bit confused on that. Everybody else, I think, does have some legitimate cases. But if he does continue to come off the bench, he'll be a real contender by the end of the year. Again, because of his role he plays for the Sixers, he can light it up on the scoreboard. And, of course, that defensive presence as well. Got to give a massive shout-out to Embiid. I saw some comments in my short last night where I guess I didn't mention Joel Embiid in the short 60-second clip of me recapping the game. And, probably a little bit of an oversight by me not to mention Joel, but my brain was really focused on the late stages of that game. Got to give a big shout-out to Embiid. I'm a big Embiid guy. I will defend him, and I have defended him for years and years. And last night was his best game so far, without a doubt. He looked dominant offensively, played 23 minutes, scored 25 points, and what really impressed me was how engaged he looked on the sideline. He was locked in. He was looking fully bought in after he was taken out of this game, cheering on the sideline, getting all hype, and that's what I love to see out of Embiid. Finally have that joy again playing basketball, right? And I think that might be my biggest takeaway from what I saw last night. But again, in just 23 minutes, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, was 9 of 17 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Looked a little bit slow defensively. Washington was going at him for a lot of the time he was in there, but he was also making some plays, and the Wizards were making some tough shots as well. But definitely his best offensive game of the season, and played the most minutes he has played yet this year. Definitely a good sign as we move forward. And mentioned 25 points in 23 minutes. That is the third fewest minutes played in a 25-5-5 game in NBA history. So just wait till Embiid can get out there and play in some more minutes. And I want to go back to this point that I brought up as well. I just loved how engaged he was, how locked in he was, how animated he was late in this game as the Sixers were making that comeback and he was on the bench, and Adem Bona was going crazy. Quentin Grimes was going crazy. Embiid was probably the most hype of anybody on that bench. He's running around. He's fist pumping and all that. And when this is coming from your leader, right? And now Maxey is kind of his team at this point, but Embiid's still a vet. He's still the guy that's been here forever. Everyone looks up to him. And when you see a guy who, sometimes can have bad body language in the past and hasn't always been the best leader in the past, he looks like he's having a great time. Quentin Grimes tweeted out after the game, the vibes are phenomenal, and I got to give a lot of credit to Embiid. He's been a great leader by example this season. I love the way he's handled everything. I'm sure he just loves being back out there on the floor and seeing the team win without him having to put up 40 points a night. So I love what I've seen there, and I got to give a lot of credit to him, but also to Nick Nurse for setting the culture. I think he's quieting all his haters this season. Obviously had some doubts after last year, and rightfully so, for people to question him based off what we saw last season. It was very, very ugly, but man, this year, the adjustments he's made in games, and he talked about that in the Wizards game last night, switching things up defensively after they could not stop Washington for really the first 3 quarters, the lineup decisions he's made, and the culture he has set, the foundation he has set this year for getting this team to play the same way no matter who is on the floor. An easy candidate, in my opinion, for an early season coach of the year come in the conversations, I should say. Sixers have a lot of guys that can be in some early season award races. And again, according to DraftKings, he's number 2, according to Coach of the Year odds at plus 900, right behind Spurs new head coach Mitch Johnson at plus 500, above Eric Spoelstra, Mike Brown, JB Bickerstaff. Nurse has done a great job. And I just can't wait to see how this team can grow and evolve over the course of the season. Some of their stars are playing a lot of minutes, so got to monitor that. But I think it's been just tremendous from Nick Nurse. And while we're talking about the Sixers head coach, want to hear from you guys down in the comment section. I think he's been a top 5 coach in the NBA this season. You fill in the blank for me. Nick Nurse is the blank best head coach in the NBA, I should say. Let me know down there in the comment section. Now, coming up next, after we just recapped that crazy game against Washington, we have a positive Paul George update. The NBA insider Jake Fisher we got to get to, and we have an idea finally on his timeline and when we can see PG back out there for Philadelphia. But before we get to that, I want to give a big shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is DraftKings. All your favorite NBA players are back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is the place to bet on NBA stars this season. New customers, bet just $5 and get 3 months of NBA League Pass, plus score $300 if your bet wins, paid in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SixersChat. That's code SixersChat. Bet $5 and get 3 months of League Pass, plus get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. NBA League Pass auto renews until canceled. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. And these are my picks for some NBA action on Wednesday, October 29th. Sixers don't play again until Friday, a couple days off after the back-to-back. So here's what I'm rolling with here tonight, plus 818 odds on the parlay. So $100 bet would win you $818. Give me Detroit money line against Orlando. We saw Orlando not playing great to start the year. I like what the Pistons are doing, even though they also haven't been great to start the year. But give me Detroit money line there. Give me the Bulls minus 5.5-point favorites over the Sacramento Kings. They are also undefeated, 3-0. To start the year, another surprise team in the Eastern Conference. I think they keep that going. Start 4-0 against Sacramento. And then give me the Utah Jazz money line against the Portland Trail Blazers. Utah's also been surprisingly good to start this year after many thought they'd be the worst team in the entire NBA. Of course, all odds and lines are subject to change. Big shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's show. So without further ado, let's get to that Paul George update that we have from Jake Fisher. Again, Jake Fisher and the insider for Bleacher Report, pretty tied in with the league. Previously was with Yahoo Sports, so when he says something, I tend to mostly believe what he has to say. And this was the update he passed along on PG. There definitely is some positive momentum, to my understanding, about Paul George making his season debut sometime in the next week, plus sometime in early November. And then he clarified even further that we could see Paul George within the next week. So today, Wednesday, October 29th, possibly within the next week. So next Wednesday, we could see Paul George back out there for Philadelphia. It makes sense. He has been practicing in full for a little while now, and I thought we would have seen him by now, but obviously Philadelphia taking things slowly. So looking at a potential Paul George return, don't think he'll be back for this Friday's game against the Celtics or Sunday's game against the Nets. But Sixers with a game on Tuesday, November 4th against the Bulls. I think that's the earliest possible return we could see Paul George. If not, the very next day, Sixers another early season back-to-back against the Cavs. Obviously, Paul George will only play one of these games. And then another set of back-to-backs for the Sixers over the weekend. Saturday against the Raptors, Sunday against the Pistons. So I think the earliest, Tuesday against the Bulls. The absolute latest I would expect is this Sunday game against the Pistons. So we're getting closer and closer to seeing Paul George back out there. And want to address this quickly. I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show, but I keep seeing people talk about this. Some fans are worried about bringing Paul George back into the fold and how the Sixers will fit Paul George and some of these other guys like McCain when they get back in. While the Sixers are playing so great, right? They're on a roll. How do you get Paul George back into the rotation? Will he mess things up? Look, I'm not really as worried about that as I've seen some other people kind of talk about it, and I really don't see it being much of an issue at all. Paul George last year, with the way the Sixers team was constructed, a lot of times kind of had to try to be that guy, right, and take over games. But the Sixers have a new system this year. They have a new way of playing. And everybody else seems bought in. So I can only guess that Paul George is bought into this idea of the way the Sixers are playing right now, where anybody can take over at any given time. Anybody can be the one to help this team get over the edge. So he doesn't need to be a guy putting up 20 points a night, right? He can play more off the ball, maybe lock in a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, play within the system. He's still an elite shooter off the catch and shoot. I think he fits in pretty seamlessly, actually, to what the Sixers are doing. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. He also, was with this team practicing before the season started. It's not like he hasn't gotten any run at all with this squad. So he knows how they're playing and what their system is. So I would not be too worried about trying to find a way to get Paul George playing well with the rest of this squad. Now, the question is, does Paul George get his starting spot back when he returns? I'll leave that one up to you guys. Should Paul George start when he eventually comes back? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comments section. That'll do it for today's show. As always, be sure to hit that sub button, and we'll see you tomorrow for another video right here on 76ers Now.